I want to give you a chance to respond to what seemed to be, on the face, a rational point. The Republicans said, listen, let's do this piecemeal. We want to talk about sick kids with cancer. Let's fund the NIH here, no strings attached. Then we'll do a separate resolution. We'll fund it for the veterans. Individual, piece by piece, singular pieces of legislation. Why isn't that a good idea?
Because it allows the Republican Party, which is the controlling party in the House of Representatives, to pick winners and losers. You notice that we haven't yet voted to see to it that Head Start reopens. We haven't yet voted to see to it that college students who get student financial aid will be able to continue to get that aid. That's because those are not priorities for the leadership of the Republican Party in the House of Representatives. We must have a rational process that funds the entire government, and to take it piece by piece, allowing the leadership of the Republican Party in the House to, as I say, to pick winners and losers is no way for the greatest democracy in the world to function. It simply isn't.
Finally, Congressman, I'm not trying to date you, but you've seen a lot of stuff that has made you scratch your head in D.C. for a while. But I've spoken to folks who have taken offense at this one more than others because it seems that the basic rules of government don't seem to count anymore. You get a vote, you have an election, the Supreme Court even weighs on something, and it doesn't seem to count anymore. Others are more mad by the rank hypocrisy of what's going on. What bothers you most about what we've seen here in the last couple weeks?
I mean, there's certainly more than a little hypocrisy, and that bothers me. But what bothers me most is that this process, if allowed to succeed, the process that the Republicans have engaged in, fundamentally imperils our democracy. It fundamentally imperils a basic rule of our democracy, which is that the majority rules. And it fundamentally imperils the checks and balances that are built into our Constitution. As you suggested, we have a piece of legislation, the Affordable Care Act, that was duly passed by both chambers of the Congress. It was signed into law by the President. It was reviewed by the Supreme Court and found to be constitutional. And then it was subjected to a referendum called a presidential election, in which the candidate who advocated repeal of the Affordable Care Act lost. So from every conceivable vantage point, the Republican Party has failed to achieve their policy objective with respect to Obamacare or the Affordable Care Act. So having failed in all of those legitimate areas, they now are saying, okay, fine, we're now going to hold the government hostage. We're going to hold hostage all of the services that the government provides to all of the people who need and rely upon those services, simply to get a policy objective that we were unable to get any other way. And if we were to allow that to happen, that is, I think, a death blow to the fundamental tenets of our democracy. And one of the reasons that I think that it is so important that the President and the Senate and the Democrats in the House stay united and stay firm on this is that we need to protect our democracy and the basis on which that functions, which is majority rule and elections.
Congressman Bishop, thank you very much, and I wish you luck here. It seems like you're going to need it. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me on.
You got it. All right, I want to bring in our panel on this. TJ McCormick, host of Good Morning Westchester on VOX Radio. It's actually very good stuff here. Dominic Carter, political journalist and author, and our senior political correspondent who you already met, Andrew Whitman. Andrew, you did, in the setup, you talked about all the different constituencies here across the board. Forget just media even. It seems that this is when, not if, they got to fold. But it's a tough hand to read here because they don't seem to care.
To me, the big news, and we led with it, was the news about the debt limit. The Boehner saying he's not going to let the nation default on the debt limit. I think that gives us an indication that the shutdown is likely to go right up until the eve of the 17th, or in the neighborhood of the 17th. And then I get a feeling it's all going to be wrapped up all in one. I don't see how you're going to handle the debt limit and not have the government operating again, especially since repealing Obamacare was supposedly the argument that they wanted, or the thing that they wanted for both. So that's where I sense the end game is coming, though I'm not sure how Boehner does it and keeps his gavel or keeps the Republicans united.
Dom, assume Andrew's right, because it seems if you had to be a betting man, something close to that's going to happen. Mm-hmm. Why would he put out here that he's not going to let the 17th happen, you know? Do you think there's lesson learned out of this? I mean, because everybody turned on these folks here, okay? I mean, Wall Street said, hey, we're not down with this. Cut the you-know-what here, because now all of a sudden you're screwing around with the market and you're screwing around with real money, and we can posture all we want, but we're not down with this. When you got Grover Norquist, okay, and for people who remembered, he was the guy who said, I want to basically drown the government in the bathtub. That was one of his favorite scripts. When he's going after Ted Cruz for being irresponsible, you know you're in trouble. Will we have to go through this again, or do you think at least this broke the fever?
I think, to use the term you've been using, this fever is almost over. It's been overnight, and the child is doing better. What's that saying? You take one step forward, two backwards. Yeah. You can't win for losing. Well, in this case, the nut wing of the Republican Party, they have almost lost everything. Sure, their districts may be safe in terms of re-election, but they have shown their hand as completely empty with no ideas except for cut for the American public, and they have greatly hurt their own party. And I think we're finally starting to see signs, Richard, where the Republican Party, who knows, is saying enough is enough. You nuts, go stay back in the corner. Or sit back in the corner.
Well, you speak to some of these nuts on a regular basis.
Yeah.
Is there a sense to say, what are we doing here? This looks like amateur.
We started getting that sense in the election of 12. We started getting that sense with these lunatics talking about with their stupid, ugly, ridiculous comments about rape.
Now, you know I'm not going to let you off the hook that fast. You're calling them lunatics now as well?
The ones who talk about a woman's body shutting down during a rape? No, absolutely.
What were they? Aiken and
right?
Yeah, them. Yeah. Not even worthy. Not even worthy of their names. Yeah. We got an idea about these guys. Look, it's gone from the Tea Party has jumped the shark and has become a caricature of itself. It started off in 2009, pretty respectable at least until they got hijacked by the media. There was a libertarian. Taxes down, this Obamacare thing is encroaching government, just, everybody cool off. That's what it was about. Now it's become really ridiculous, hardcore right-wing values. Now, I also want to say that values, whatever, positions, ideology. I also want to say this, though. I'm still just seeing a lack of statesmanship on the part of the president.
Wait.
Really?
What would you do?
Really.
Wait. You're him, okay?
Yeah.
And I don't have to remind you, teacher, the whole backstory and how we got here for the last 5 years of what he's dealt with, okay? Where basically he was illegitimate from jump with these guys.
Right.
So that has gotten us to this point. Why in God's name, and you play poker, and you know when you bluff and when you play a hand.
Right.
He knew he had a winning hand sitting in there, and he looked across the table, and he knew they were bluffing. The public wasn't with him. The media wasn't with him. The money wasn't with him. There wasn't one constituent that was going to double down with him other than the 40 guys in the House.
You're talking about
Why would the president negotiate with that? Forget that he's right. Why would he negotiate with him?
Because that's part of the job description. He is the executive. He is the lead executive. He's not a legislator anymore.
A guy had a great example. I think it was Christoph in the Times today. And he said, should the president, if Vladimir Putin called him and said, you know what, I'm going to cyber attack you unless you capitulate to the following demands. If he did that, they'd be calling for impeachment for him.
I'm not saying he gives in.
Why would you negotiate with a terrorist? And this is, in effect, a policy terrorist.
Hold on. Because from the beginning, he is now paying the piper for lack of relationships, lack of reaching out. You talk about when he came in. We just referenced 2009 when he took office. He came in and said, they drove us into the ditch. We're taking the keys.
Who do you think?
This is the guy. No, I'm sorry. You referenced Bill Clinton in the last 10 minutes. Talk about what he would have done with Gingrich.
He said it himself. He goes, the guys I dealt with, Newt Gingrich looks like Mr. Moderate compared to these guys.
But not John Boehner. John Boehner is nobody's heavyweight.
Rich, allow me. Do you remember the gathering in, I think it was 2009, outside of Annapolis, where it was broadcast live on C-SPAN? Every Republican member, it was a Republican conference getaway, and the president was invited to speak there.
Right.
And he engaged in a back and forth with him. And the general attitude in the room was, he was mean to us. He was mean to us because he was debating our points and he wasn't giving up. From the very beginning, the attitude for this president has been,
Obama
whatever he
today
does, he
showed
can't
himself to be the now glorified, risen up community organizer. That's what he does. He goes on a stage, takes off the shirt, rolls up the sleeves. You said you're in your piece. Went back into campaign mode. He has never left campaign mode.
But I do want to say
Doesn't lead.
The four of us hate one thing. We hate a few things, but we hate hypocrites, right? Mm-hmm. Okay. Andrew, we've given a pass to John Boehner on the show here because we said the guy's between a rock and a hard place because he's trying to bring along the crazies, but at a certain point, if he throws him under the bus, he'll lose his gavel, like you said. Mm-hmm. That said, we learned something about the height of hypocrisy here. What some guys are saying on the stump today about Congress and their health care, we need to give it up, give our salaries. And then there was a document that was leaked that said a 1/8.
It's this whole thing, the argument that we've heard about Congress should play by the same rules as everybody else. Why? How dare you exempt Congress from the Obamacare or from any of these other rules that everybody else has to play by? And then we got this story in Politico, which we can throw. Government shutdown, John Boehner's private fight for Hill health subsidies. Turns out, even while he was on the floor denouncing those differences, he said he called on his colleagues to vote for a bill banning a so-called exemption that lawmakers and staffs receive for their health insurance. But behind the scenes, he was, you guessed it, working for months to save those very same long-standing subsidies. The emails that were released prove it. They were leaked by Harry Reid. Boehner had been working on Harry Reid with this deal and other Democratic leaders, trying to get it done. Reid's finally like, I'm hearing this guy in the House saying all these things, and I know that that's not true, so he released the documents.
I gotta tell you, I don't know why that makes me so mad.
Really?
You know what?
I don't know why. It doesn't bother me at all.
You know why?
Politicians
Because
do it every day.
Don't you remember, Dom, the
disgusting.
freshman class of the Tea Party, how they said, oh, government, my God, we came here to shut it down. And the same pieces of you-know-what in the actual orientation meeting stood up and said, wait, when do we get our government health care? Do we have to wait until we're actually sworn in January, or can we start getting it now? Why do we have to wait 60 days until we get it? Now, Boehner's calling out saying, hey, we're not better than the average American, and he's the guy fighting to get exemptions for Republican lawmakers. To me, that's offensive because if you're going to preach the Kool-Aid, you better be drinking it. And these guys want it both ways.
I've been saying for 5 years, we need to till the soil from the top to the bottom. We have a political class in this country. I'm not going to apologize for any of them. We have a political class, do as we say, not as we do, and there are a bunch of hypocrites and narcissists. I say till the soil all the way from the Charlie Rangels to the John Boehners, from the McConnells all the way down to the Sean Maloneys. I mean, everybody in office right now
see him
gone.
Setting up a tent in the middle of Kansas going with one of those mobile mics. Till the soil. What is the Broadway show I'm thinking of here? The Music Man or something. When he goes, I can see TJ working that.
As Harold Hill?
Yeah, there you go. Very nice.
We got trouble right here in River City.
You set him up.
Capital T and around.
Just going back to your original point, I'm not sure if this necessarily breaks the fever when it comes to the Tea Party. The thing is,
God, I hope you're wrong.
It depends.
They look awful.
But it depends on what the public reaction to it is. And I'm looking at a poll right now that says, and this is a week in, CBS News poll, 44% blame it on Republicans, 35% blame it on Obama and the Democrats. It's obvious to the four of us who's responsible for this.
No,
TJ, I lumped you in.
they're taking a pounding.
But it's still holding to where about the political ideology
But I think
is.
they did enough here that you saw Republicans, not just King where it's easy because he's Long Island, what's going to happen to him, right? But you saw a lot of other Republicans now going on record as saying this is crazy. And they risk a primary out of it, but they did the math and said, I'm not going down with this. This is ridiculous. This is stupid. This isn't me. Okay. We want you folks to keep weighing in. And again, we've been asking you, as we have for the last few days, who is to blame? Andrew just showed that the poll numbers say Americans have a mixed bag, largely blaming Republicans, but some say no. Goes right up to the Oval Office as well. What's your answer? Tell us on Twitter and Facebook. Okay, coming up next, we get away from politics, and we get to a judge here who made a lot of headlines, Vince Sakari. He made those headlines when he resigned his position as judge in order to moonlight as a comedian and a performer. And he joins us right here on set to explain his decision. Please stay with us.